Hi guys. As part of the Ditch the Dry campaign, I thought I would share with you some of my pet hates about kibbled food, kibbled dry food, ditch the dry. Two of the biggest problems that I have with dry food for dogs and cats is that they are made very, very aggressively. These two processes are called rendering, and the next one is called extrusion. And I just want to tell you why I think these are very, very damaging to food. Okay, so rendering is a process whereby waste from farms and food animal production places is basically taken to a factory and put in a great big stewing vat, and it's put in there and cooked at high temperatures, above 100 degrees C, sometimes for hours and hours and hours, to basically soften and boil down all that living tissue, including bones and everything, into a kind of a sludge, which they can then dry out and turn into a powder, okay, or into dry material. That dry material then goes into a hammer mill, which basically pulverizes it into powder, okay? And that's, I think, is really damaging, because it's just stewing and stewing and stewing. So all the vitamins will be destroyed. Many of the minerals will be abnormally, affected. So that's bad. But in addition to that, what happens at these really busy rendering plants is that they will accidentally, in many cases, put in plastic bags. You've got a bag with 6 heads in it, and the whole thing goes in, because they're under time pressure, these guys. The animals will arrive with ear tags, and plastic ear tags, identifying tags, and they can go into the mix as well. And also dairymen use tape on dairy cows' tails to show whether they're dry or whether they're in the first part of the milking process or the second, what have you. It's kind of identity like that, and that will go into this rendering vat as well. So not only are you dealing with meat meal, which goes to the kibble factory, which has been overcooked and then pounded into a powder, but you've also got particulate matter of the plastics that were associated with the meat when they went into that rendering vat. So when that meat and bone meal goes to the kibble factory, what do they do with it? Well, first of all, they will precondition it with hot water and steam. Okay, so it's the first part of 4 cooking processes. And you know what happens when you cook? You reduce the vitality and the nutrient density of that food. Okay, so preconditioning heats it up and gets it into a kind of a gloop. That gloop is then pushed on into a superheated tube several meters long, which begins this cooking process. It breaks down starches into sugars and it denatures protein. They then come out the end of the extruder, which is why it's called an extruder, as kind of spaghetti, which are then chopped. So when the gloop, the dryish gloop, goes through the extruder, it's then chopped and you get these pellets, which is the classic kibble. Those pellets then go for enrobing, round 1, which is where they are dried under heat, intense heat. Again, denaturing protein and adding to this cooking process, releasing sugars from starches. They are then going for enrobing round 2, which is where they are warmed and sprayed with liquids to balance the minerals and vitamins which has been denatured and killed during the rendering and the extrusion process, and also fats. Often with a degree of rancidity, fats are sprayed onto it to bring up the level of the calories so that you can have a high calorie or a low calorie kibble. Do you fancy having some kibble? Do you really, after knowing that, do you really want to give your dog or cat dry kibble?